a lot of times we don't know the difference. Many people don't know the difference between what is money and what is actually currency, and what makes them different. Because in that scenario, in those explanations, and in that understanding, it tells us a lot about our world. It tells us a lot about our freedom and the foundations that this world is built on. In fact, money is such an important topic. Apart from salvation, it's one of the most important topics in my mind that we could learn about, that we could understand, because money represents our freedom, it represents our time, it represents our wealth and our energy. And these things, the only thing that's truly scarce in this world is our time and our energy. And if the system in which we are using is enslaving us, is the chains to our freedom, to our energy, to our time, then it is a injustice. It is wrong, because the system we use is not what our founding fathers set us up to use in the beginning, due to what they learned through this process. But when I hold these up and I say, what's the difference between money and a currency? Well, currency is like the flow of energy. It's like the flow of our output, of our ability. And a lot of times we make the mistake for using it as a store of value. And the only difference that makes between a money and a currency really comes down to these core traits, which is both of them are a medium of exchange, both are a unit of account, both are portable, durable, and they're also divisible and fungible. In other words, they can be interchangeable. The only difference between a currency and a money is store of value. See, things like silver and gold and Bitcoin, to be specific, they are limited in supply. There's only so much of it that can actually be made, that can actually be mined, that's in existence. It's hard money. It's a hard asset. These things, currency, pieces of paper, they're emitted and borrowed. Our government borrows this from a central bank, which has shareholders, which they earn 6% off of loaning money to the American government, which this money is then printed into existence or created into existence out of thin air. So essentially what happens is, if you borrow the first dollar into existence and you owe interest on that dollar from that central bank, where are you going to get the second dollar to pay for that interest? Well, you have to continue to borrow again. So it's a perpetual system of debt that requires more and more spending. And that's why this talk of balanced budgets and paying down our debt, with the system that we have, it is not a likely scenario or a plausible scenario, because what happens is there's always more debt than there is currency in the system. So if you make any substantial effort to pay down the debt, that whole system collapse in a deflationary collapse. So the only option they have is to continually spend and to continually borrow and go deeper into debt and hyperinflate the money to where the money continues to lose value, or I should say the currency loses value. Again, this piece of paper, the US dollar, or the AKA Federal Reserve note, because this is really constitutionally not what a dollar is supposed to be, it has lost 98% of its purchasing power. Back in the 60s and 50s, when people were actually paid with real money, real silver quarters, they were paid $1.25 an hour. I know that sounds crazy, but guess what? If you take this silver today and you take that melt value, though that $1.25 that they earned in silver, and you melt that down, the melt value of that is greater than $17 now. So it's very evident that wages are not keeping up with prices, with inflation, because as the money supply continues to increase, the marketplace realizes that there's more money in the system, so prices have to rise. And so if you're holding this stuff in the bank and all your assets are in dollars, well then your wealth is going to be eaten alive. There's a reason why $20 worth of groceries in 1998 could have bought you a full cart of groceries, versus where today we go to the store and we need at least $100 to have a full cart of groceries. This is just one example of rising prices and inflation, and the simple fact that wages are not keeping up with this. We are being robbed. And here's insult to injury. Is that we pay taxes, okay? We spend more of our time, more of our energy, and we pay these taxes to the government. Well, the government who borrowed this money from a central bank, okay, that created it out of nothing, who earns 6% off of this money each year, what happens is we pay our taxes and we have to pay back that bank. The government has to pay back the central bank in the interest that's owed. Okay, so that is even more of a Ponzi scheme. It's even more of a fraud. And so I would say, how are you storing your money? How are you making sure that you're going to be set for the future? Because historically, all fiat paper currencies have never lasted the test of time. They always go to zero. And we went through it already once in America. When we had the Continental Dollar during the American Revolutionary War, we printed that and hyperinflated that to oblivion because we wanted to pay for the war against the British. But nobody wanted to take those dollars anymore. That's why we came up with the phrase, it's not worth a Continental Dollar. So the Founding Fathers knew that this was important, to be able to have a form of money that holds and sustains its value. And that's why in the Constitution they wrote that only gold and silver could be considered as money. So the dollar was actually a measurement of actual silver and gold. And now, today, we have abandoned that. In the 70s, in the 1970s, when Nixon fully took us off the gold standard and by definition became a true fiat currency, essentially what happened is the dollar became an instrument, a complete instrument of debt. And now we are on a timeline. You know, every fiat currency usually does not exist past 50 years of existence. I mean, there are a couple of scenarios where they've gone longer, but at the end of the day, they all fail. So what makes us think that the US or the Federal Reserve note that's printed from the central bank or created from the central bank, what makes us think it's going to be any different? Okay? What makes us think that this $20 is going to have the same buying power 20 years from now as it does today? Because history is a guide, guys. The money keeps losing value. We're getting to the end of the timetable. Okay, not only that, but the dollar has been the world reserve currency. Countries have been required to hold dollars, to buy oil, to use it in international trade. We have tried to create a demand for dollars, and that's been our number one export. But as soon as this gig is up, all these dollars are going to come home to roost, and we're going to have hyperinflation that's just going to go out of control. The next financial crisis that we're going to have, whether it's a recession or depression, the only answer that they have is to lower interest rates, either to negative interest rates, which is another story, which is ridiculous. Parts of the world are doing it, or they're gonna print more money, quantitative easing. What are you putting your faith in? Are you putting your faith in a piece of paper, or something that actually has intrinsic value, or is limited in supply? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, whole nother topic. I'm just talking about a general idea here. But I'm talking about all this because I'm passionate about it. I think it's an injustice that the American people are being robbed of their wealth, not just through the taxation to pay back a central bank that's creating money out of thin air and earning a profit off of it, but also the simple fact that people, they're not keeping up with inflation. I mean, if you keep your money in the bank, you'd be lucky to get 2% interest on that money in the bank. And the Federal Reserve has come out and said that every single year their goal is 2% inflation. That means that they're going to take away 2% of the value of the money that you're actually holding every single year. It just doesn't make sense, guys. You need to do your homework. You need to learn the difference, because your freedom, your wealth, your time, and your energy depends on it. I don't want to see you robbed. I don't want to see you in a challenging situation in the future, because we are going to have hard economic times. We have a lot of things converging in today's society when it comes to monetary history, and things don't look pretty. But if you position yourself in the right way, you can position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer the world has ever seen. This giant bubble of liquidity that's been created worldwide. When people lose confidence in it, and when this thing bursts, all this liquidity is going to go racing to limit it to hard assets limited into supply, so they can try to preserve their purchasing power. Gold and silver has maintained its purchasing power for thousands of years. You can take the same amount of silver, the same amount of gold, and buy almost the equivalent of goods and services as it did back in ancient Egypt. So what money are you using? What money are we using as a country? Is it a good store of value over a long period of time? I can tell you that these do not.